Are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction. So it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Daryl the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's, it's tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer. And in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profit's up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Daryl is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by Smart Wolf Consulting.
Well, it looks like I was muted. Let's start this over again. So, guys, I jumped on here because, and I was getting some stuff started. There was a Clubhouse about buy-in and how to create it, and I thought it was a great topic of conversation. But I just, I don't think an hour was going to cut it. And more importantly, what I thought was also interesting was I never heard anyone talk about actually how we get buy-in from an engagement standpoint of asking. Right? Like, some people said you got to tell people, some people got to lead people, but I've never heard one person talk about like asking. Like, what happened to just asking for permission? Right? And so I wanted to kind of discuss that, but then I also thought about it is, you come up with these great ideas. I know a lot of guys that come up with magically great ideas. And then, it's really interesting because they might not be the person to sell it. You don't have to be the best salesperson to have the best idea. I know lots of people that come with ideas and they don't need to be the salesperson. So, for all the egomaniacs out there that, say like, oh, it's my idea, I want to run with it and everything else, you might not be the best person. And if you're really want to get buy-in and you really care about building something and seeing it to fruition, the first thing you need to do is really challenge yourself to if you're the right person to lead the charge. A great idea can be stifled by the wrong person leading it. More importantly, and I want to start there is, so when you think about that is, what if I had like, say, a staff of 20? Let's do some hypotheticals here. These aren't even hypotheticals. I've done this in my own life as a director, as a consultant. If I just went and said, hey guys, this is the best way to do something, great. They could trust it. They could not. I have to then work on them. And, they talked about today in that room in Clubhouse was that You've got the 50% that you're going to war for, right? Chris Hunsaker said that you got the 50% you're going to war. You got 30%, right, that are just defectors. They're always going to be an issue. And you got 20% that are the superstars that are in no matter what. And we're formed for that 50%. What if we sat down instead of like, okay, we're going to go in there and then we're going to go win these people? What if we sat down with the people that we thought were the 50% and floated the idea, right? Said, hey, this is what we're looking at. What do you think? And got their real, like, because here's the thing. I know everybody says like, well, if you got something to say it now. But there's a lot of people that aren't comfortable speaking into a group of people, right? They don't have that. So then you're like, well, no one said anything. So they better be into it. That's ignorance and arrogance to be honest. And that's because that's our ego. Well, I gave them an opportunity, but you didn't. Because did you put everyone in a safe situation to where they could have a voice? And safe situation doesn't mean that, hey, what stays here, is did they feel like they could say something to you without reprisal, without being judged by other people? So then you can float it by other people individually. It takes a little bit more time, but isn't that what we're doing? Is if we put the time in before we do it, we don't waste time once we're in it. Never heard anyone say that. Everyone was talking about things we've always done, things we always do. And I'm not against the tried and true measures of what works. However, we have a new generation. We have a lot of new people coming in, and we're going to have somebody come to the stage. Okay, he's a magical individual that doesn't let anything stop him from saying what he means and meaning what he says. And so we're going to enter him and get him in the conversation. So welcome to the stage, Peter Smith. Welcome to the stage. So we were talking about, and I was just kind of going into, I didn't hear anyone talk about asking or. And I would love to get your take on this, because as I was wrapping this piece up, I'd love to get a different view on this. In the auto industry, it is safe to say at a high probability or high scale that there's a bunch of egomaniacs that know how to do everything right. They couldn't possibly not know how to do everything right. Is how many times have you seen an idea not work because you come up with a great idea, but you might not be the person that's the person that needs to sell it, pitch it, or lead it? And so it's like, first you can come up with the idea, but are you the right person to actually put it in front of people? So that was the first part that I didn't hear anyone say. And then the second part that I didn't hear anyone say is, we go into a group, and I heard a couple of people saying like, all right, you should tell people what to do, or lead them to what to do in the battle for that 50%, which I agree, the battle of the 50%. But what I thought was interesting was, why are we doing it in front of a group? When you say that you gave everybody an opportunity to say something or say challenge it, what if those people aren't built to challenge things into a group? I didn't hear anyone say we should float these ideas in front of individuals, and not 1, 2, or 3 individuals, into 15, 20 individuals before we pitch it to the group, so that they can voice and they can feel empowered of being part of it, and ask them what they think about the idea. Ask questions. Why won't it work? We're so geared towards this is what we're doing rather than actually getting people involved. I'd love to hear your take on that, and whether you think I'm right, wrong, or just have a different view of it.
That for me, Daryl?
Yep, that's for you.
Okay. I didn't know if you were talking to someone else or not. First, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and being on the same wavelength that we're on. I'll agree 100, 1,000, 1,000,000% that we have a challenge with egos in our industry. We see it when the person's name's on the side of the building. It's not Lexus of Sarasota. It is Sutherland Lexus, for example, or whatever. It's out there, and the challenge is that I built this business, therefore I know how to run this business. And we've heard multiple people say, there's the dealership you run and the dealership you think you run. But the issue is with that is it's pure ego, and we believe that we know what we're doing. We really do. And we supplement that by going to 20 groups and listen to other 19 other individuals that think that they know what they're doing. And then we come back to our dealership and say, these metrics say we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing because the other 19 individuals have told us that. So we haven't listened to the number one person, and the number two person that we should be listening to is first our customer and second our employees. But we do not, and as you said many times, we don't have the humility to do that because our ego gets in the way. And the challenge becomes, okay, now we're actually, it's almost like two battery anodes trying to fight against each other. They're pushing away, and that's why we have a challenge with buy-in, because we're telling people what we believe without listening to what they understand.
Sure.
And
sure.
and that becomes a focus point of growth. And the leaders, the true leaders, and they're the 5% of our industry that are true exceptional leaders. They're exceptional operators. They're the ones that they're involved with their teams and saying, what do you think is going to make this better? And that's where I came up to this morning, and I said there's three pillars of this. And the three pillars are you have to have clear and concise communication. So you have to know, everyone has to know why you're doing this, why the reasoning behind why you're doing it, and they have to be empowered to be into doing it. And that clarity has to be there. Then the second part is you have to look to your champions, the people that really are not the true followers of the yes man or the yes women in the dealership. You know, we've always had them. Yeah, I'll do anything for you, boss. No problem. I'll get on it. I'll do this. I'll do that. You don't need that as per se. You need the people that say, hey, I understand due to the clarity and the communication, the reasoning why we're going to engage in this, and I'm behind it because you've empowered me to be part of it. And they become champions of that movement. And they're gonna bring in the fencers, the people that sit on the fence and say, hey, we'll just sit back and we see it everywhere. We see it in business, elections, you name it. They're gonna sit on the fence until they can see a defined winner. And then they're going to jump into that pool. And then the last part about it is we have to have a circular feedback loop. And that means that we need to know how the employees feel, how the customers feel, and how that relates to our example that we're trying to put out there. And that all has to be consistent every single time, and it has to be a process. Now, where I look at it, and I think you're absolutely right, is do you actually know that you're doing the right thing? Why are there people out there that are in positions like yourself and myself and a number of the others out there? Why is there a need for a consultant? Why is there a need for an outside independent viewpoint? Why does Kyle Disher do so well with Rev Dojo in mystery shops? Why? Because as an operator, you're too close to the forest to see the trees. You cannot make independent decisions. And I'll argue this one till the cows come home, because the egos say they can. The true operators say they can't, and they have people in their corner to help them. Daryl,
Sure.
You have a coach. You have a coach. You have a coach to tell you, not to tell you, but to show and lead you in directions that you didn't see because you're too close to the fire.
Sure.
And that is one of the greatest misnomers. That why do I need to reach out and get help? It's not help. It's it's an additional viewpoint, and
Sure.
that's what the mistake is.
Well, and I think
it,
it's funny you say that, right? Because like if I'm in it, right? Yeah, it's I'm not gonna say it's impossible. It's very hard to see like what you're missing when you're in it. But like that call last night and then the call today where the call last night was I thought was significantly better because there's a little bit more challenging. But when like Frank Knox was talking about, if you want to do this and you want to put it forefront, is how many people ask for help? And it's from this. If I have someone that's not in what I do, come from a 30,000 foot view, they don't know what I do. They just look at it and now they can give you constructive criticism or they can tell you where they see the flaws or whatever it may be. Is it allows you to go like, if he sees that, how many other people also see that, right? So then it gives you a different view, just a different scape. But more importantly, I also asked the question about getting buy-in. If you're a leader, and let's just make you a GM of a store, and you've done 3 or 4 different changes, let's just say, because you're like, hey, we're doing everything we can to improve. So we've made some changes, and none of them have worked. You've led all these initiatives, and they're just not working. Or let's say you failed at some of these initiatives more than you've won. Do you think when your next change comes out, the next thing that you say is a good idea, that you're getting buy-in?
no,
Like, I think that's the question is now if you have someone, or if you say, hey, we're going to do this and they like you. For instance, the guy that was on the call last night, and I can never.
Roger Hendon.
Yes. And we all know, listen, the guy's awesome. When he talks, I mean, I can believe everyone buys into this guy just on his presence alone. So that guy, I believe, that's your 5%er. If this guy says we're going to war, people are jumping on the grenade. But we are talking a very small amount of people out there like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, hey, I'm going to do this, whether I'm confident in or whatever else, if you don't have any experience in it or it's something new, do you have more possibilities of buy-in if you bring someone in that's an expert in their field and works with you, doesn't tell you, but works with you and gives you the ebbs and flows? Or do you think that your team's just going to be like, oh, yeah, he's going to do it and he doesn't know it? Like he says he's never done this. So I always wonder, and that's why I brought it, like I was trying to jump into that room, but everyone wanted to jump in and say the same things over and over again in a different ways. Why don't we ask people where it's going to fail? Where do they think it's going to fail? How would they run it? And if I get 10 people in a room individually and just say, hey, just want to see how things are going. Hey, I've got an idea. I don't think I'm the best one to bring this one home. I wanted to talk to you about it and see if this is something you'd like to champion. And ask them and talk to them about it in an individual fashion. They can give me constructive criticism. They can tell me where they think it might break down because there's a trust circle. I think we think people will say something when we pitch it to a team, like they'll say it. They don't. Most people do not like being the person to be the voice of opposition in a room. Doesn't mean that they're not bought in, by the way. That's something I also didn't hear. You can question something and still be bought in. And that's actually an effective thing. Like I want people to have questions so that we can figure out where it goes wrong. But
so on that,
go ahead.
And David brought it up after you left. The no's, the yeses, and the counterfeit yeses, and that is truly what we're trying to find out in a situation like what you're talking about. Say you're going to change from a multi-touch point to a single point of contact on your variable, and you bring in your sales team and you say, okay, this is going to be a brainstorming session, and what we're going to do is we're not going to say yes or no to this, but we're going to ask the questions and we're going to develop questions from it. And Marilee Adamson wrote a book called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And it was virtually the same thing about this. And she called it question storming. And it's saying, okay, you got 10 people in a room, get them to ask questions. What questions do you have on this product? What questions do you have on this service? What questions do you think will be raised if we implement this? What questions do you think are going to be the roadblocks or the obstacles and everything else? And you start writing down all the questions, you'll find the answers.
Sure.
And you will also find out who's actually interested. And those are going to be your champions.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Is like we always want to say, like the one guy who was super passionate that brought up Adam and Eve, which made me, I was dying. I was dying.
Okay.
It was so funny.
Jonathan Dawson.
Yeah, it was so funny, but because he's like he couldn't even get them not to eat an apple. That was hilarious. But it was like, and I don't disagree. I think there's sometimes you have to tell people, there's people you have to manage, and there's people you have to and that you let run. But it's, why are we not, like, when we think it's a good idea? And I mean, I know the answer, right? The answer is fear, right? Insecurity, inferiority, whatever you want to call it, is we have an idea and we're like, oh, we're going to start this new system. And we're like, and we're jacked. We got sold on this thing. We bought the cow, the milk, the farm, the whole thing. And it's like, why don't we ask questions to people before we jump in? But more importantly is, if I'm a GM, and maybe I'm different. I mean, I know I'm different. But I think that the 5% you were talking about are also different this way. It doesn't need to be my idea. I mean, it could be my idea of like creation. Like, I think this is a good idea, but I rarely run with them. I want other people to be like bought in and saying, it's yours. Who wants to be the guy to run? Like, who, when I pitch it to them or I say this, says, hey man, can I head that up for you? I want, and let them be the champion of it, of like, it's now their idea. I don't need the credit for this idea. I think some people not only are just seeking credit so that they're like, I'm the one bringing it to you, is they like, that's how they feel important, right? It's like, instead of a human need, it's like it's an inward inferiority thing. It's like, empower other people. You don't have to be the guy that's the center of the idea thing, right? Let the people who really engage or that want to champion, because they're going to be enthusiastic. Plus, if they start to fail, they're not seeing the engagement from it. They're not seeing whatever. Don't you think, I mean, maybe I'm also like, too optimistic about this, that they'll come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Like, hey, can you sit down? Like, can you tell me like maybe where I need to do? They're going to then come to you as a mentor, as a coach, because they don't want to fail and you don't want them to fail, right? You check in with them. I just think when we're talking about buy-in, we're so antiquated to, we have to lead people to it rather than something as simple as asking them if they want to be part of it.
So having said that, and I personally think, and I know that this will probably get me in trouble, but I think COVID was the best thing to happen to the car business.
Don't disagree.
Okay, and the reason why I say that, and it's not because of the strife and everything else that happened, it gave the car business an actual wake-up call.
Sure.
And
speaking of a wake-up call, Peter, wait 1 second, Peter, before you finish. We'll go ahead and make this a threesome now and bring another voice in here who definitely has power in industry. Okay. And let's mix it up with our guy, the man, the myth, the legend.
There he is, the man himself, Frank Knox.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on, sir? So go ahead and keep going, Peter.
Okay. So with that, COVID was the greatest thing to happen in the car business, and it was a reset. And unfortunately, with most resets, you have to move the switch up and down or whatever, flick it a couple times. So you're either moving way to one side or way to the other side to reset it to the central breaker position. Now, what it did is it flipped us too far to one side, and that was the gross profitability side. That put us into 8 to 12% gross profit, or net profit, I should say, in a dealership. That's unheard of, unsustainable, everything. It just doesn't happen. Well, the 95%, not the 5, understood that as capable. We were capable of doing that. So why did we not remain at that? Well, they didn't get the buy-in to remain at that because it was unsustainable. And if they had listened to the teams, they would understand that, you know what, these rainbows, unicorns, and gumdrops were going to eventually end. And then it's going to put us in a position that is going to be challenging. And when it put us in the position that's actually challenging, it gave all the control back to the buyer. The customer has the control now, because all the things that were developed to engage with COVID buying, the digital retailing tools, the everything that was out there was in place. Now the customer has the ability to do everything that they want. So you have a number of dealerships, 95% of them, out there scrambling to find the next best lure. We're looking to land the and I forget the fish's name in on Golden Pond, but Walter. They're looking to land Walter, and it's virtually impossible to have a lure that's going to land nothing but Walters. So where dealers are going, okay, well, and I heard it today or last night, it was actually this morning, a CDJR dealership says, I give vendors 90 days. Well, that's not commitment. You can't get a buy-in on 90 days because you can't get a solution to work. It takes 67 days to form a habit. 67 repeated attempts at something to form a habit. So how are you going to get in the following 23 days success? You can't get it. So like you, I won't engage with a customer unless they sign a long-term contract because it doesn't make sense. There is no buy-in from that individual, and then that individual is trying to get buy-in for their individuals, their team members, to get buy-in from their customers who actually fund everything. And it just doesn't work. And with COVID, and what I was saying about COVID is we have to rejig and everyone says let's get back to the basics. Well, that's the biggest load of dog crap I've ever heard in my entire life in this business. It's not getting back to the basics. It's cutting it down to the foundation and rebuilding the home. That's what it is. Because we're not getting back to the basics. If you want to survive moving forward, and we've seen the consolidation of some big groups, Larry H. Miller, Herb Chambers, Coons, Fred Beans, they're all consolidating. Why? Because they don't have the capability of going back to the foundation. They're going, and if you think you can remain and still be who you are without cutting it back to the foundation and rebuilding, you're done.
So, no, I think that's extremely interesting. And Frank, I'd love to bring you in here because what I started with is, why don't we ask, right? We always think we have to tell. And you kind of initiated it last night on that call of like needing SMEs, right? Subject matter experts, right? Especially when it comes to acquisition, things of nature. And I kind of go into this with buy-in is, I've asked somebody because I'll give another parable because this happens every day. Actually, I was just on with a client and it was on, what was it? Monday or Tuesday. And it was like their used car manager does like 6 things, right? Like he's got to buy cars, he's got to merchandise them, he's got to get them through this. And I'm like, so if you said, hey, we're going to do, and let's just use co-video. I love co-video. I love everything video. So I'm in. Like as soon as you say video, I'm 100% in. But let's say you told this guy who's already got 6 things on his plate, hey, man, now we're going to start doing this, right? Even if he believes in you as a person, he works at Rogers' store, right? And he's like, I think Rogers, he's a boss. He goes, man, I have got no more time. So even if I'm bought in, I'm not.
Right.
Just based on time. And so I always find it interesting in buying is like, why don't we sit down individually and then float an idea, find the right person, but then ask them like, hey, like I'm thinking about doing this. Would this help you, hurt you, or like overload you, right? Like how does it like, and then get some buy-in. And I'm not talking to 2 or 3, but like, why are we so afraid to ask, right? And I'd love to get your input on that. But then more importantly, why are so many people in the auto industry, and I'm sure it's other industries, right? But let's focus on the auto industry because there's enough issues we can solve there before we try to tackle the world, is that are so hell-bent on it's like, I have to be the guy. Like I have to be the guy running this or be the idea guy rather than why don't come up with a great idea and understand that you might not be the best person to bring it home.
Yeah, so a lot of that has to do with ego, right? Like we know the reasons why. So let's say the quiet part out loud, right? Like it has to do with egos, and
Sure.
individuals want to be in charge no matter what. And the difference between that's the big difference between a manager and a leader, right? The manager wants to be in charge, and they want to flex their muscle and show they're in charge. The leader wants collaboration and wants to bring the entire organization with them. So you think about that, and what we're really talking about, and I think what we miss at times is a thorough discussion around change management and what true change management means. And more importantly than what it means, what does it actually take? Because think about, Daryl, you've been there, I've been there, Peter, we've all been there, right? But Daryl, you and I, we go into stores and we're talking about acquisitions and this new, Peter said it last night, like, hey, it's the new catchphrase, right? Like acquisitions is so important. It's always been important. There's not a time in the industry when it wasn't important.
Yeah.
But now it's clicking, but it's clicking in a way that people aren't willing to stop and ask themselves, okay, to change my entire organization that didn't view this as an important piece of the business, or it wasn't as important as F&I, it wasn't as important as selling a car. Well, if we want to turn that upside down, well, what do we have to do? And the answer isn't, hey, let me just go ahead and bring in, let me go ahead and bring in Daryl Steed, because Daryl Steed is going to come in and tell me I got to build this robust buy center and he's going to handle it all for me. And when it blows up and it doesn't work, well, it was Daryl Steed's fault, right? Or, hey, I'm going to go out and find Unique Auto Sourcing, and Unique's going to come in and they're going to buy me a bunch of cars. And when it doesn't work, or when they can't find the cars I want, it was all their fault. Well, no, it's because we never even identified what it was going to take to change.
Sure.
And more importantly, something that they were talking about, and I had to jump off the clubhouse this morning, but something they were talking about is identifying that 20, 30%, and then the 50%, right? All those years at CarMax, we called them early adopters and we called them brick kickers. We kept it really simple, right? Like, hey, my brick kickers, the 20%, those were the people that were going to tear the house down no matter what I did. They were going to be, as I put a brick on and I put a foundation on and I kept building, they were going to kick those bricks right down for me, right? We knew that. And so we knew that, hey, I got to go target those people first, right? I don't have to get them out of the door. What I have to figure out is, how do I get the biggest brick kicker on my side and have them start to convert other people in the organization? That is true change management. The easy part is, you're not on my team. You don't want to do what I told you to do. Great. You're no longer on the team anymore. You're not here, right? It's a lot tougher to spend that time and energy getting that person truly on your side. And the only way you do that is through that collaboration, sitting down with that brick kicker, asking them, hey, so what is it about the process that you don't like? Because they're probably going to have some valuable input that might take you a different way. Because that early adopter, that person, that top 30%, that person is saying, I'm all in. Frank, I love you. I'm all in. I'm running with you. Even if the process is broken, even if it sucks, I'm still running with you 100 miles an hour. I want the brick to give me the input.
So it's interesting you say that, and I'm glad you said it just the way you did. It's like, I'm in because I like, hey, Frank, if you say it, I'm in. Because that's like when Roger was on that call last night, right? And then it bled over to today's. And I think people need to understand that about buy-in, right? We need to really emphasize that point. And I'm going to make sure I replay this a couple of times, is they're working for you, Frank. They're working for Roger. Here's the other issue that I think people miss in buy-in. Are they buying into this regardless of who's leading it? Because if Frank leaves, if for some reason something crazy happened and the organization got rid of Roger, which would be obviously the dumbest decision of that organization's life, right? Does everything still work when Roger leaves? Does everything still work when Frank leaves?
No.
And so
No, it doesn't.
Well, and it doesn't, right? And so it goes into they're buying into people because you've built a team that they're there to work for you. You have loyalists, or you have people that are like, hey man, we are a team. But are they a team for the company, or are they a team for the people, right? And I think we need to really understand that. But then that's where your ego, I had ego for a long time, and then I realized there were so many people better than me that it was just getting in my way. So now someone has an idea, and I'm like, let's do their idea. Like, if it works, why am I trying to sit there and convince you of something else?
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, guess what you're willing to do? You're definitely willing to listen to my idea now, right? Like,
well, think about that. Think about that, what you just said, right? Like, so having come from a big organization that is known for their processes, you could go from one store to another and find the same process completely broken.
yeah.
And you go, well, why is it not working at this store? Well, because they were never bought into the process in the first place. They were bought into the person running the process, right? They were bought into the manager they had, and so they ran that process, but they never loved the process. And to some degree, that person who was following that leader, in some cases following that leader blindly, that person that you're talking about, they probably had quite a bit of input if they just stopped and picked up the process apart. And this is something I was talking about last night when you start talking about that feedback loop, right? Like, it's called a loop for a reason. I want that loop to go from myself to the associate, right? And from that associate, I want that loop to go from the associate, and I wanted to go to that next person, right? Like, hey, I wanted to go from the associate to the next associate. And then I want the feedback to go from the customer back to me, so that I can keep the loop going, and we can continue to, to embrace what change truly, truly means. But hey,
and I think
guys,
the other
I
side
need to do this. I forgot I had an 11:30 call.
Go jump on, man.
Jump here really quick, just because I love hearing you guys and talking with you guys. So, but I got to jump off of here. But man,
we appreciate you, Frank, and then you go handle your business, and you'll hear more. So as you leave, Frank, and Peter and I will pick it up, is when you're thinking about that feedback loop and you're thinking about how you get that engagement going on, right? Is the other side to think about too is, and we talked about a little bit last night, I was surprised no one brought it up this morning, is when it comes to buy-in, like when we know, and I'll use ADHD people or OCD people, right? Like, go find someone that's truly ADHD or that is on the spectrum of some sort of and go have them watch a movie and watch how they lose their mind. However, and I actually learned this about ADHD people, if you tell them the ending, this is the craziest shit I've learned now about ADHD people, because my kid has it. If you tell them the ending, they will sit there the whole time and watch the movie now.
Because they know the vision.
Because they know, and so now they're looking for details. So that's the other thing I think about buy-in, because again, we've done so many things. See you later, Frank.
Always a pleasure, guys.
We've done so many things like this is how it's always been. We don't look at anything new. We don't look to seek for understanding. If we told them, hey guys, I'm going to meet with you individually, we ask them for permission. We ask them for buy-in, right? I'm not telling you anything. If you're not bought in, maybe this isn't the right time for this idea, right? Timing is everything. We learned that in life, whether you want to or not. Is if you said, okay, we're going to do this, right? And it's what I talked about last night. Do we even know how much investment we're putting towards this? Do we know the timeline of what we're going to evaluate, whether it's a year, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is, right? Is you say, guys, we're going to do this. And you've already talked to people, you've already got a champion, you've already got someone. And then when that person comes out and says, this is something we are doing for no less than 6 months, and then we will have a sit-down conversation, or 9 months, or whatever it is. So people now have an act of certainty of this is what the new normal looks like. So they're not going like this. I'm going to do something, and dealerships are ridiculously bad about this, is we're going to make a change, and in a month from now, 2 months from now, the person who wanted the change actually didn't buy into it the first time. He got sold sizzle with no steak. And then 2 months later, he says, that's not working, we're going to abandon it. You've went and messed with everybody's life and certainty because you're a laydown. Rather than saying, if you're going to make a commitment, which is what you said, Peter, and I'll be 100% honest, there's zero chance you're getting me to do a short-term deal if you want my help. And it's for this. If you can't make a commitment to something for a certain period of time, right? Preferably more than a year, but bare minimum that. Why would anyone want to put time and effort into you if you're going to sit there and change my life every 90 days and then expect me to just be like, oh, it's fine? Right?
Okay.
It's kind of crazy.
So I'll give you my quick opinion on that. The car business is as close to day trading as ever any business could be. We work on a 30-day career. That's it. That's your career. It's 30 days. You go back to zero at the first of the month, and you start a new career. Because if you don't, and that's based on targets, this, that, whatever, that the manufacturer, the dealership puts out, business plans that the GMs put in place, saying, here's your budget, this is what we expect of you, this is our growth pattern, this is the activity we expect of each and every individual in the dealership. And if we don't meet that in those 30 days, well, guess what? You're traded. And whether you're put on waivers or you're traded, you're still gone. And that's it. So that mindset, that first mindset of that has to change first, because we can't get commitment on a 30-day career, because no one's buying into that. And I argue this so many times that activity does not breed results. It can accomplish results, but it doesn't breed results. Meaning that it's a non-sustainable issue that we go through. So think about this. You got the dealers that and you've heard the calls. Oh, you have to make 75 phone calls a day, 50 emails, 50 text messages, 20 social messages, 10 videos, this, and then you have to create 2 appointments, and you have to sell a car all in one day. Well, knowing the time it takes to sell a car and present a car, if you have 2 appointments, forget about the people that walk on the lot that you're responsible for as well. You don't have the time to make 75 phone calls. And then they say, oh, yes, you do. Okay. All right. So you have 50 seconds, 45 seconds, get on the phone. Hey, Daryl, you know what? This is Peter Smith from XYZ Motors. You were in last Tuesday looking at an F-150. I just want to call you and let you know that car's available, and maybe we can do something better for you. Please give me a call back. Is that a connection? Is that anything that anybody actually wants? Would you accept that going to Bonvoy? Would you accept that flying with Delta? Would you accept that going to STK? No, you wouldn't accept that at all. So why do you think our customers do? So we don't have the buy-in because we're flowing through our people because we're working on a 30-day career. Now, we want to get the commitment. Now, if a dealer is willing to end a relationship that matters to someone to provide income to their families in a 30-day period, what are they looking at as a partner? And they talk about this vendor partner bullshit all the time. It's not a vendor partner bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. And I'm sorry, I call a spade here because it is the truth. We're not their partners. They don't give us extra money when they make more money.
Sure.
We don't get a dividend. They don't pay us a dividend if we go in and we change their the operation of their dealership, and we go from $600,000 GP in a month to 1.2 or 1.5 million in a month. They don't turn around and say, "Oh, I'm going to give you 10% of that because you did such a great job because I got extra money now." No, they expect that. So all they're doing is it's like going out and buying a flashy shirt like this and going to the bar and saying, "Hey, is the shirt going to get me an opportunity to talk to the pretty girl at the end of the bar, or what do I have to do?" And that's what dealers are trying to do, is they're trying to find that way of introduction to get more conversions. That's why they go out and buy 10,000 leads in a month. That's why they go out and the absolute madness of it all is they already have their business. They just have to manage it properly. And
that's really interesting, that the way you say that, right, is like, when you say partnership and in the 30-day career, because, when I do the coaching and help build pre-owned operations, like I used to just it was just build buying centers. Now I'm like, I'm doing pre-owned operations. I've now got clients where I'm doing coaching for sales and management. But it's funny because I tell them, I'm like, I don't care about results. I know it sounds crazy and saying this out there, people are gonna be like, I'm never hiring this guy again. But it's the behaviors and actions. But I love you saying like, well, the actions don't, like, they can get results. Well, it's because the behavior, right, is behaviors come as like, I need you to do the actions, right? We know the numbers. Like if we do this, it gets us this. However, if we do this empty, right? If we do this like, we're not bought in, we don't have this like conviction to it, we don't have the behavior. So the actions aren't just a piece of it, right? You have to have the actions, creating the behaviors of buy-in, like care, excitement, the with them, right? What's in it for them. And then once that behavior is created, but like you said, they have a 30-day career. Well, I mean, we can go over it, right? It's like one of the most effective studies if you don't want to like lose money is if we, and the 67 days, guys, just so we're clear, when Peter talks about that, that's the Stanford study of like what it creates to create a habit and create performance behavior. But it's also, you have to do the exact same thing in time and day, and so that it becomes repetitious to where it becomes part of your person, so that you understand this is what your body does, so that it can create peaks, it can create like enthusiasm behind it. So if we have a 30-day career, how do I ever get somebody to create a behavior or a habit to create the right action, right? And so like you said, is that this is what our industry is, and the only part of that, if you're saying that, I'll challenge is, except for the ones that are doing it, right? And we'll give 10%. I'll even give over 5% of the industry right now has figured out that the 30-day career nonsense, right, doesn't work, right? I've even been in some stores, which West Coast to East Coast, I cannot tell you the difference of what I'm learning now having clients on the East Coast. I mean, it is, it's a very different animal out there in a positive way. They're hiring managers, a lot of them, and they're like on like job offers, right? Like contracts. And they have non-competes, right? So now that's a partnership, right? You decide you want to bail out, you can't work anywhere else, right? And then they can't get rid of you because you're partnered up, right? So I've seen some of that, but then I've seen where when they hire someone, there's 7 interviews, right? It takes like an act of God to get into an organization. But then you look at their turnover and it's 10%. It's not like in the West Coast where it's 800%, where I'm looking for new salespeople every other day. Oh, and shocker, they make more money. They sell all their cars. Their people, I'm not going to sit there and say they have all happy people. There is that 20-30% that are still the ones knocking it down, but they seem to do the job. They just are those people that are pissed just to be pissed, right? Like they're just mad for the sake, like that, whatever happened to them.
Yep. Oh,
but
absolutely.
But it's inevitably, it's like, wait a minute, when you have less turnover, right? Then you have that consumer experience, your CSI, whatever you want to rate it on, typically is stronger. And so I look at that as buying is like, do you give people like, and I think buying starts at the employment process, but do people want to work for you and why? And if it's just money, like when you and I probably got in the business, it was just the money. I'm going to be 100% honest. The car business, if you think it's bad now, it was way worse before, guys. I mean, it was bad. Like we did and said some things that were, everything you've seen in a used car movie is 100% true. Okay. So
they needed a reference point.
So yeah, and so yeah, they needed a reference like that. Actually, you guys, just all those used car movies are documentaries that just made it to Hollywood. Okay, so I look at it as the hiring is like, if they come work for you just for the money, you don't have buy-in from go, because money can be beaten by anybody. If you get good at what you do, right, and you're a people person and become a leader, all I have to do is offer you more money. You're going there. But if they come work for you because of schedule, quality of life, balance, referral, and that's another thing someone didn't say in the buy-in conversation on Clubhouse today, which I was kind of threw me off too. What's the best lead that you can get in the auto industry? The best.
Repeat. then
Repeat and
a
referral, right? Repeat and referral, right? Because a referral is I didn't have to tell you how good I am. Someone else did. So I don't have to sell you trust. I don't have to sell you anything. I already have it based on someone else's qualification of conversation. So that from a buy-in is why are you sitting there trying to sell anybody? Your group, your people, your industry, like they should be talking so high about you that buy-in initially comes from other people saying it, not me trying to sell it. And we don't focus on that either. I think that was a very interesting thing that we don't focus on how we're talked about from our organization as buy-in or from our industry or from the community as buy-in. Like if I went and looked at reviews on your dealership, would I want to work there? It's also why I live.
Well, here's the thing, and it was asked to me. Well, I put together this partnership, and Frank is part of the partnership, and I have 20 titans in the automobile space that are all bought into the Lion Partnership as a collective to improve the industry. And it was put to me, well, where do you see your market demographic for this? And I said, the market demographic for this is 5% of the dealers. And it's not the top 5% of the dealers. It's the next 5%. And those are the ones that will buy in to what they need, what investment that they have to put out to get that return that they're desiring. It's that group of dealers out there. And that not necessarily will be the top or the 5 to 10% net profit dealerships. It's the 5 to 10% operators.
Sure.
And that's who it is. So finding that buy-in, and you talked about employment and recruiting and things like that. A good friend of mine, Larry Feldman, one of the best recruiters in the country.
Great guy.
Larry is at a dealership hiring 10 people every single week. Different dealerships, every single week, he's hiring 10 new sales reps. And I'm banging my head against the wall going, what in the hell is going on? If you have a dealership and you need 10 salespeople every single hiring process, you should be looking to get out of the business. End of story. Sorry, Larry, but that's the truth of the matter. You should be getting out of the business. You should be looking at your leadership and saying, what is going wrong here that I'm losing employees at that rate? And you shouldn't be growing at that rate either. Because if you're scaling at that rate, then something was horrifically wrong.
Sure.
And you don't know what was going on, that you had to go out and hire a person like Larry. So there is a challenge in that right off the bat. So 52 dealerships a year are messed up just by Larry standards. And that's not no. And we look at it and we say, okay, how can we get better? And it's actually self-reflection, and it's actually talking to someone other than your ego. So, for example, I'm 6'2", 235, and my wife says I have a body like Homer Simpson. And she says it's unhealthy. And
Oh God, that's too much.
you're going to have a challenge. So until I have that recognition that I don't want to look like Homer Simpson, and that I want to get healthier, and I want to get past this, I I will continue down the pathway I'm going. As we said, this is the way we've always done it.
Sure.
I've always done this. This is what I've always eaten. This is what I've done. And the only gym I know is the guy I went to high school with. So it's a giant challenge for me. So until I find the self-reflection and the disgust in the way we're doing things, I'm never going to change it. Sure. I'm never ever going to change it. I'm just going to continue down that pathway. I'm going to be in the 30-day window. I'll just do. We'll run this month and we'll see what next month brings. And we're not even bought in. I'm not bought in. And that's we have to start with us personally first before we expect others to buy in. And then when we look at buy-in, we have to bring it together as a collective, not as individuals. So I can't turn around and say, hey, Daryl, you know what? I like your idea of these buy centers, but you know what? I question it, and I don't. I think I'll invest 3 months into it and let's see how it goes. That's not buy-in. That's apprehensive. We cannot be apprehensive. We're either in the pool or we're out of the pool. End of story. You're jumping in and getting completely wet, and you're staying in there until you either swim or you die. And there was something that I brought up, and it was talked about last night. Alan Mulally, and when he went from Boeing to Ford, and he was approached and recruited for years and years and years and years and years, and he said no each and every single time. And then he finally said yes, but I'm only going to do it if I can do it my way. It has to be 100% bought in by Bill Ford II. And if he didn't buy into it, he wasn't coming. And with that commitment, he came in, and Bill Ford basically lit his hair on fire. He was going, "What is he doing to my company? What's going on?" Well, that buy-in created process. That buy-in created a vision. That buy-in created new values. That buy-in saved that company. But the whole point of that is either you're in a famous British term is in for a penny, in for a pound. If you're going in with a penny, you might as well put it in a whole pound, because it doesn't matter. Either way, you're spending that. So you're 100% committed, or don't do it at all.
So I think that's a great way to kind of wrap things up. I want to say a couple things. First one is, I saw this thing on Instagram, saw some GIF, and it just falls so true to Biden. Is like, I'm all about consistency. I think peaks and valleys and cardiograms are just like not a great way to run a business. Unless you're a day trader, then it like hey, get the shorts, get the talls, like, but you got to look at it. Is consistency is boring until the change happens, right? Because consistency is like, oh, we're here, and then all of a sudden when you're consistent, guess what ends up happening? You get a consistent raise too, right? You don't have these like ebbs and flows. And the other thing is that when we're thinking about that in buy-in is, you know, you have the pit of misery with Challenger training, which is still the best sales training in the world. I mean, it's tried, true, and everything else. But it comes into is that you have to kind of feel that pain, is that if you're going to do anything and you're going to get buy-in, right, where does it start? And I want to wrap everything up is like, buy-in is important, but I don't want everyone to be so encompassed to, well, this is what we've always done, because there's been a lot of things that have happened in just the last 5 years, but let's just say the last 20, that has changed the business from internet to digital retailing to COVID to market crashes, everything. So when these things change, behaviors change. And we have to then redevelop how we engage with people and how we need it. And I say that let's go back to something as simple as just asking, and not have to be so egocentric, and being able to be part of the team, maybe not leading the team, right? Leaders follow. In order to lead, you have to follow, right? So it's a simple principle. But more importantly is, and you're going to see more to come on this word. And like this word to me is absolute fugazi in the auto industry. I think it is misused in so many different ways. But if you want buy-in, learn the definition of transparency. The real definition, not the word that we like to use in the auto industry of like we're transparent, like with trade tools, and that aren't, right? And with that we're transparent unless, of course, we don't want people to know something. Transparency, okay, is clear and defined, right? Learn the definition of if you want buy-in. If you're going to be transparent, and if you don't want to be transparent, don't. Just don't say you are, right? People want to understand. They want to know the why. Some people don't. But if we want buy-in, be involved in it. Do it, talk to your people, ask them, and be perfectly open to giving away every idea and letting someone else be the person, right? You don't always have to be the guy on the hill selling the idea or discussing the idea, bringing the idea up. Let your people be part of the solution more than you're part of the speaking part of it, right? And then that is going to get you buy-in. Why? 90% of people want to be successful. They want to. So are you putting them in a position to where they can be? Like you have the perfect idea. This is the winner. This is a crusher. Great. Give it to someone else. Let someone else spear that head so they find success. Because guess what? They are going to, like, no one wants to fail. They're going to run it in for you. All right?
Absolutely.
Let humility run you in and let you build a team that like sees that you don't always have to be in front. Peter, I appreciate you coming on. I'm about to jump on a call and talk about how you can engage with people and obviously get more buy-in on a training call right now. But more to come. And hey, guys, keep in mind, right? And Peter uses all the time as well. He should, right? The truth hurts only what it should. So if everything we talked about today hurt your feelings or you think we're off our rockers, it's probably because what we said is something you're not doing. But more importantly, hopefully you learned one thing, saw one thing, can use one thing, and get a little bit better. This is Daryl with Smart Wolf Consulting and Peter with Lion Partnerships, and we will talk to you guys soon.